So even if you use the first pick on one of these quarterbacks, you're still going to be able to continue to build your roster.
Where I'm at is like thinking of this logically, not trying to have any sort of emotion tied to any, like, one specific player, one specific dream idea. I try to stick to it based on what I'm hearing and people I talk to around the league of what they believe the Bears are going to do. And at this point, we have not heard from Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, Kevin Warren publicly, outside of Kevin Warren's. He did a couple interviews. I know the Jarrett Payton one, he sat down with CBS. Like, he talked at the Super Bowl. But
and there was a lot in that Jarrett Payton interview. It was fantastic.
And it was a great interview. Like, there was a ton to go through from the stadium. I mean, the stadium portion of that interview took up 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I watched all 19, 20 minutes of the interview, and I thought it was terrifically done to get actual information. It may not sound like it's something concrete, but you can do a lot of reading between the lines there. But
I still don't know where the stadium's going. I was sold on Arlington Heights, and then they convinced me that it was going to be down here.
I have a gut feeling it's going to be in Chicago. I just keep getting this
I think he wants it to be here. He always talks about how beautiful it is on the lakefront, but maybe Jerry Reinsdorf beat him to the punch with regard to public funding.
Today might have thrown the curveball and all of that with them asking for $1 billion.
Why not?
With the B.
I'll take $1 billion.
Ask for $2 billion.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to have that much audacity to ask for a taxpayer-funded stadium in this corrupt state, why not shoot for the moon? Get an extra $1 billion for yourself.
Why not?
How'd that streaming thing work out for him when he was all on his soapbox about it last year? Did he make his money off that?
I don't know. Did he?
So let's go recoup the assets with the state of Illinois.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't be the first person to have stolen money from the state. But no, I mean, I think right now where the Bears are is they are still in that collection of information phase. Like the first time they will have had to sit down with Drake May, with J.J. McCarthy, with all of the quarterbacks. So
most of the film work's done, right? Wouldn't you think a lot of film work's been done? It's been put away for a while.
They should be done with draft meetings by today. I know around the league, a lot of people have today off because they've concluded draft meetings the first 2.5 weeks of February. So the initial board should be set to go down to Indianapolis. Now you get to meet with these guys face to face because for so long, I think people have already thought they've done their research on Caleb Williams. Well, they haven't talked to him yet. The combine is where you get to do that, where you have a chance, all 32 teams, to talk with all of the prospects. And there's 300 of them that get invited through. I always forget the name of it's like Scouts Inc. more or less. Like there's a group that puts on the combine. It's not. In conjunction with the NFL. They get a chance to talk to all those guys. They will have their opportunity to sit down face-to-face with Caleb Williams and find out, are you the guy? The tape may tell us you're the guy.
Yeah.
The thought of what this team and the cap planning that they do may tell you he's the guy. But if they're still thinking we still want to field offers for the number 1 overall pick, because Poles has not said one way or the other, like we're open for business or we're closed for business. It was more towards, hey, call me. Let me know what you have to offer. This is their chance to button those things up. But I do think if you're looking at how the conversation has shifted in recent weeks, it feels like more people are leaning in the direction of how can you possibly pass up taking a quarterback with the number 1
Why do you think
pick?
that is? Because I interpret it the same exact way. The further we drift away from the season, the more consensus you hear building. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt that away from Chicago because everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people have a vested interest. There's an emotion that's attached to the situation. There's less emotion. So it seems like there has been larger consensus away from Chicago from the very beginning. But certainly now that consensus feels like it's building, or the popularity for them using that first overall selection on a quarterback is building.
I think a lot of it starts with the draft analysts. So the Mel Kipers, Field Yates, Daniel Jeremiah. I don't know if you're going to find a mock draft from a reliable source. Remember, and I know people are going to say, well, Mel gets a lot of things wrong. Mel's, his batting average is whatever.
They all had Mitch ahead of everybody several years ago.
And that's a fair part to bring into the conversation, but he's connected. Let's not forget, he's not just basing this off of his own scouting evaluation. He's talking to scouts. He's talking to front offices. He's making these mock drafts based on what he believes teams are going to do. All of them are. And you're not going to find one that has number one going to anybody other than the Bears just because of how valuable that draft currency is. And the strategic timing of that NFL.com report the day of the Super Bowl that came out that said it would take, quote, crazy compensation, and that apparently was a quote attributed to somebody in inside Hallis Hall. Like, it just all of those things, those crumbs that we're following right now, feel like how can they possibly do anything other than that? Because that's what it feels like the path that we're going down. Could it be a smokescreen? If you want to play devil's advocate, sure, it could. But I don't see it that way. I really don't. And the more time we've had to digest the quarterbacks in the playoffs, what Jordan Love did with the Green Bay Packers, going down and beating the crap out of the Dallas Cowboys, what Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions did in getting to the NFC Championship. Like, you're no closer to them right now in your own division.
Right.
So the more we've had a chance to digest playoff football, I'm throwing C.J. Stroud into the mix too, and seeing, what that team did to beat Cleveland, and then, a respectable exit, I would say, going to, play a team like the Ravens on the road and losing there.
And then you factor in, I think you factor in some of the other stuff. And I've said from the very beginning, the determining factor for me isn't resetting the clock. I understand that part of the discussion. I understand that element. To me, it's about a concise decision and a very large conviction that you may have that somebody that you select can take you somewhere that the person who's currently playing the position can't take you. So my decision would be made on my comfort with picking somebody, not necessarily just turning the clock back with regard to the salary. So I've always felt that as long as Ryan Poles is comfortable or confident that one of these guys, whether it's Caleb Williams or Drake May or Jaden Daniels, whoever it is, gives him a better chance of getting to where he wants to go, then that's how he should pursue this.
I thought about this the other day, the day that they released Whitehair and Eddie Jackson. And, you have to go back to 2018 when Eddie got All-Pro and thinking about what that defense was, how they won the NFC North that year, but what the construction of the team looked like. They've had some really good to great teams that have been held back by quarterback play.
Right.
If you can change that, and not holding out hope that another weapon, another piece, another offensive lineman can take this team to where it needs to go. Like, build your team the rest of the way. This free agent group, that's what people should be getting excited about. There's a legitimate free agent wide receiver class this year, unlike the previous years. And yes, doesn't sound like Mike Evans and Tampa Bay as of today. I think there was some trigger in the contract. They're not going to extend him right now. Could they tag him? Sure. But that's a name to be looking for. T. Higgins is a name that might not hit the open, that
There's
may or may not hit the open.
There's some pass rushers as well that are available.
Like, this is an exciting time to build your roster with nearly $60 million in cap space and not being worried about having to eventually pay a quarterback right now. You can have Caleb Williams, Drake May, whoever the hell it is, on a rookie contract while you're spending big bucks elsewhere to build the team. And that's the incentive you have for making that decision. And like I said this on SportsCenter earlier, and I know people tell me I'm wrong, that it's not a 50-50 split. Well, I see what the caller log looks like when I'm hosting here. I see and hear all of this. I don't care if you have a poll that you set up on Facebook and it tells you 75% Fields, 25%.
Well, most of the people that are going to vote on your poll are going to see life pretty much in the manner in which you do. So whatever poll you set up, the majority of the people are going to vote for something that you would vote for yourself.
Exactly.
That's the way it works.
The opportunity cost, if we're making this an economics thing, it's too great to pass up. And it may not be anything that Justin did wrong.
Right.
In any other year, he's staying the quarterback of this team. If they have the 9th overall pick, they're picking up the option. Yeah. They've seen enough, at least at this point, to know that they can make a $23-ish million commitment for him for 2024. Now, of course, we'd be thinking about beyond that, paying him maybe $50 million a year, Daniel Jones sort of contract, whatever it is. Any other year, they're sticking with him. This year, it may not be anything that he did wrong.
Sure.
Or what's missing or whatever else it is. It's just that the opportunity cost to not move him and not get another quarterback is too great. That's just basic economics as it pertains to how they have to go through the science of this decision and how they structure their decision.
I shudder at the thought as well, the comment that, you need to trade this pick to to bring a haul of draft picks back and return it. It's the only way to build your team. They're a 7-win team. Now, I think they still got a long ways to go because some of those 7 wins weren't exactly the most impressive wins I've seen. So I'm one that really likes the direction they're heading, and I think Ryan Poles has done some really nice stuff. But I think that there's still a lot of room to grow and a lot that has to be done. But even if you use this first overall selection, you still have a ton of currency. You have the 9th pick. You have other draft picks. You've got the 3rd or 4th most cap space available to you. So even if you use the first pick on one of these quarterbacks, you're still going to be able to continue to build your roster. Yeah, and I think there are people that believe that you can't do that if you don't trade this pick, you're not going to be able to build your team. Well, I think that's nonsense.
Well, the idea that you need to, and Ryan Poles is a lifeblood of your team is the draft, and that's his philosophy. He's a college scout at heart. That was how he came up through the Kansas City Chiefs organization. That's fine if they want to do it that way. Somebody we're going to talk to, Rick Spielman, was the college part of the organization is the lifeblood. That's a fine way to build your team. How did they get to become a 7-win team? Because they traded for a pass rusher who was entering the prime of his career at the deadline. Because they got DJ Moore, who had already been a productive receiver somewhere else. Because they got Tremaine Edmonds, they got TJ Edwards, because they got players who were already doing this somewhere else. They did a good job in terms of trades and free agency last year to help this team get to where it is. And I'm not saying that you can't have draft picks, participate and contribute right away. They certainly did that with Tyreek Stevenson. Darnell Wright was a terrific pick for them, but that's not the idea that trading the number 1 pick and building it through the draft, missing out on all the other ways that you could still continue to build your team in free agency. You can have the best of both worlds in that respect by using the best draft capital in all of sports, number 1 pick, top of the draft board of an entire NFL draft class, and spending money in free agency to get the roster better.
Yeah. So if you had to place a large wager in Vegas as to what you believe Ryan Poles will do, it would be draft a quarterback first overall.
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I felt that way for a while. It takes, again, nothing away from Justin, but that is just how, from the consensus of people I speak to around the league, that's the consensus I walk away with.
As we said, I think that the video portion of this, or the evaluation of the tape, is already done, but now they're going to sit down and meet with all of these guys and get to know them as individuals. Bill's in Elk Grove Village, and he has a question as to who actually gets to talk with Caleb. Bill, what's happening?
Yeah, hi, Tom. How are you?
Good. Say hi to Courtney.
Hi, Courtney. And just a real quick comment about Courtney. A radio station down the dial about 3 weeks ago wished they had you. So that's a little kudos out to you.
Thanks, Bill.
Well, nobody's gotten her. She's one of our teammates.
They franchise tagged
Yes,
me.
that's right.
Hey, real quick, Tom. Don't you think that with free agency coming fairly quickly, if the Bears do go out and get a veteran quarterback, doesn't that tell you that, hey, we're going to get a Caleb Williams or whomever, and probably going to trade Justin? Because these veteran quarterbacks, whether it's Flacco or one of these other guys, they're going to be gone fairly quickly, wouldn't you say?
I don't know if that's the first move that they would make. I think you can always pick up a veteran quarterback at some point. I think that listen, I've talked about there's 3 doors to walk through. One is you use the first overall selection on a quarterback. Door number 2 is that you keep Justin, you trade the pick, and you move forward with Justin. Door number 3 is to use the first pick on a quarterback and keep Justin. That's not going to happen as far as I'm concerned. Door number 3 to me is really not an option. I do believe if, in fact, they use the first pick of the draft on Caleb Williams or Drake May or whoever it is, which I think is what they're going to do, that maybe there is a veteran quarterback on the horizon that they would sign. I don't think that would be one of the first moves they make.
No.
But I could be proven wrong.
And I think that Ryan Poles has seen that up close, how beneficial that can be. Now, if they draft Caleb Williams, is he starting in the fall? I would probably be willing to wager on that happening. But what the situation that Patrick Mahomes came into in 2017 when he was drafted by the Chiefs, he was a raw product. He had a lot of wild throws coming out of Texas Tech where they felt he needed to sit behind Alex Smith. I could see a situation like that where at least you have a viable backup, but not a backup who's threatening you for your job the way that this last thing played out in 2021.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Bill.